United States Navy and a grateful nation. Please accept this flag as a symbol of our appreciation for your father's honorable and faithful service to our country. Please accept our deepest and dearest condolences in the loss of your loved one. It's truly an honor, man.
If there are folks who would like to participate in the traditional Jewish ribbon tearing that are a part of the immediate family, you do have to, but if you want to, if you maybe just say hello. This is a tradition that dates back to our ancestors. In fact, Jacob, David, and Job, all distraught with grief, actually tore their clothing in grief as a sign of what they were feeling on the inside. Their hearts were torn, and so they found a way to manifest that in a physical way so that everybody would see their grief and the loss that they were feeling in ancient times. We too replicate that tradition as a way to say that we love and care for our loved ones, that that loss is palpable and real. Some will continue to wear their ribbon for 7 days of Shiva, others for 30 days of Shaloshim, and still others for 1 year. Sometimes at the end of that period of mourning, folks will actually sew their torn ribbons up to show that while perhaps there has been some healing over time, that mark loss truly remains with our lives. We say together, Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, dayan ha'emet. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, the true judge. Amen. Now you can tear your ribbon from the bottom up. As we stand here today in mourning for Mark Strum, a man full of humor and love and life, we feel deeply how precious and fragile life is. For he was taken too soon. It was too sudden. It is so much to bear. There are still more puns to be made, more superhero movies to watch and enjoy, more unrealized opportunities to take care of all he knew and loved, more hugs and loving moments to have with close-knit family and friends. So many who were his heart, his motivation, his inspiration. And so we say mourning is the price we pay. For even in grief, we know that the wonder of human life is too complex, too magnificent to be memorialized in endless pain. The gifts of spirit our loved ones gave us cannot be measured or weighed, nor can they be lost or tarnished by time. Even in our darkest hour, we know that some of their light, some of their warmth will always be with us. Perhaps over time bringing some comfort and some courage. An ode to a pun. Discover a simple pun is frivolous, hilarious fun, a twist of the tongue, word music unstrung, the brain frets and stews at such ridiculous cues, but ribs giggle with glee, reactions, oh golly gee, still the greatest fun is to discover another pun. Continue with the traditional words of the 23rd Psalm. Mizmor LeDavid Adonai, Ro'i lo epsar. With God as my shepherd, I shall not want. The Eternal makes me lie down in green pastures and leads me in righteous paths for the sake of your name. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil. My cup runs over. Surely goodness and loving kindness shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Eternal forever. In so many ways, as I learned recently, Mark was like Superman, the hero he so admired, helping others no matter the need. And so I have this poem about Superman to share. Dodging bullets all day long, making plans and righting wrongs, putting fires out with just your words, starting early and ending late. There's no time to hesitate. Make it work, solving problems for your mates. A single man who leads a heap. If only you could get some sleep. You burn the candle at both ends each day, flying high and speeding round, making tracks to gain some ground. Superman, it's plain to see just how much you mean to me. Continue now with the traditional words of the 121st Psalm. Esa inai el heharim me'ayin yavo ezri. I lift up my eyes to the mountains. From where does my help come? My help comes from Adonai, who made heaven and earth. God will not let your foot be moved. Your guardian will not slumber. Behold, the guardians of Israel shall neither slumber nor sleep. Adonai is your keeper, your shade at your right hand. The sun shall not strike you by day, nor the moon by night. God shall preserve you from all evil and preserve your soul. Adonai shall preserve your going out and your coming in from this time forth and forevermore. In honor of Mark's love for Star Trek and movies that make us look to the sky, we say, Yesh Kochavim. There are stars up above. So far away, we only see their light. And so it is with people that you loved. Their memories keep shining ever brightly, though their time with us is done. But the star that lights up the darkest night, these are the lights that guide us as we live our days. These are the ways we remember. Mark Strum was born in Brooklyn, New York, to Philip Strum and Evelyn. He was the youngest of four brothers, Michael, Jack, Lenny, and Mark. With four talkative, energetic boys, it was quite a wild household, full of laughter and lots of fun. Mark and Lenny were particularly close and could be often found kibitzing and performing practical jokes. Their friendship continued throughout the years, and they even had an egg cream competition a few years back, which of course Lenny won. Philip and Evelyn divorced when Mark was young, and so the kids grew up with their mother. She was a tough woman because she had to be. When the boys told her that they were bored, she'd tell them to go to the wall, bang their heads against it until they could think of something to do. But she took care of those boys well. She worked as a bookkeeper, later getting a degree in teaching, and made sure to keep everyone clothed and fed. Mark always brought her her favorite cherry vanilla ice cream. He preferred the triple. As kids, the boys rode their bikes and roller skated everywhere. There were always kids around the building to play with, but it wasn't always play for them as they worked hard too. Mark and his brothers made milk and grocery deliveries before and after school, and as an older kid, Mark was a fan of soupy sales, and in high school he even wore his bow tie. After high school, Mark went off to the military, serving in the Navy for many years, for 4 years. He enjoyed his time there, and he worked as a postal clerk. He even ran a newsletter on the ship. Michael's daughter Cheryl remembers when he came to Richmond arriving in full uniform. Cheryl was starstruck. He took her shopping to Rose's and bought her a 1.5-foot long piggy bank. She loved it. When he came back, Mark was looking for work and went to Sterling Optical in Bayshore, Long Island to apply for a job. Here he met Sally, who gave him the application. She handed the filled out papers to her manager and she told him, hire him. He was cute. Obviously, this recommendation worked and he was in. Sally remembers so many fun times there. It was like family. Early on, he asked her out several times. However, she was seeing someone else at the time. But things finally worked out from them in the end, because during the Christmas party, Sally was finally available, and they danced. Everyone oohed and awed, and they were off together on a wonderful, beautiful relationship. Before they knew it, they were married and hot dog at a simple ceremony in court. And after the wedding, they went to celebrate at a diner in Bayshore. Mark was so flustered, he put maple syrup in his coffee instead of cream.
Just makes it sweet.
The young couple moved to a low-rise apartment building in Yonkers where Mark could walk to work. You'd think the exercise would have been good, but he still managed to gain a little weight from the tasty leftover casseroles that Sally made. It wasn't long before the couple had their first child, Aaron. During the delivery, Mark was busy watching an episode of Star Trek in the labor room. But he and Aaron bonded soon enough. Aaron, an early walker, would hear the elevator door and the keys in the hallway and go running to the door. And Mark loved to make Aaron laugh. He would walk into walls to crack her up. To this day, slapstick comedy still makes her laugh. As you read The Monster at the end of this book, complete with Grover voice, he always managed to make her smile. He'd also toss Grover into the wall, Super Grover style, just to get a little laugh. He brought Erin to Catholic church for confirmation classes later on, and she had to put in coupons for attending. And he'd always say that it looked like he was doing the sign of the cross, but really he was doing the Jewish star really fast. The family, as younger kids, eventually moved to Bayshore and Medford. It was around this time that Aaron's brothers, Philip and Robert, were born. For Philip's birth, Mark, the ever-jokester, got bubblegum cigars. And as the kids remembered, Mark was into anything that they were. Phil liked the Islanders, and so Mark would take him to the games and just chat away about whatever he was doing. He went to all the plays, all the concerts. He was always there. And Phil remembers how he used to make him laugh, and no matter what, he took care of you. What do you need? How can I help? Robert helped out when he was older with tech and remembered how his dad called him every other name except his. When Robert was grown up, he remembers the time when Mark called him 35 times while he was supposed to pick him up, and he was on the air during a film school extra credit assignment. Mark worked throughout his life as a licensed optician and a store manager. Most recently as an optician and manager at BJ's Wholesale Club in Riverhead. Not too long ago, it was announced that he was the most tenured optician in BJ's nationwide spectrum. He worked for 49 years in the field, and he loved his work. Personality-wise, he was friendly, talkative, loud, and energetic. He was humorous and helpful. He was welcoming, and he wanted to make you feel comfortable. He'd offer up at least 30 bottles of water and wouldn't take no for an answer. He was so loving and giving. Perhaps this is why he could make a friend in an instance and could talk anyone into giving him things like Spider-Man cutouts and large wooden cigar boxes. For fun, Mark loved going to the movies and watching TV. He loved old kung fu movies, Star Trek, superhero films, and anything having to do with Superman. In the car, he'd listen to 70s music, Queen, and old-time rock and roll. The last one he'd drum on the steering wheel. And he also loved musicals, like The Sound of Music, Chicago, Fiddler on the Roof. He loved running around and helping people, fixing things at home, sometimes with comical endings. And he loved to work. He worked until the week he went into the hospital. He needed to be moving. He needed to be helping. He needed to be doing. But what he was really most passionate about were his family and friends, especially his kids and Sally's mom, his brothers, his grandchildren. He loved them all so much. That passion extended to his grandchildren. As Liam remembers, he sent movies to the grandkids for Christmases, and when he talked to Erin, his mom, he'd say, "Hey there, kiddo," and he called Sarah his little girl. Liam remembered that Mr. Potato Head was his favorite Toy Story character because they used to call the Mark Strum filter because it had a little mustache. He loved that. He loved those things. Sometimes it was these little things that got him excited, like the Under Armour hoodie, his taxi cab, or senior hour shopping. And sometimes it was the big things, like in August 2018 with Michael's 60th wedding anniversary party. This was an amazing event full of love, laughter, cutting up, and great memories, and also, sadly, the last time that Michael, Lenny, and Mark saw each other together in person. Mark stayed with Michael a few extra days, and it was like they were kids again. They went out for burgers, donuts, ice cream, popcorn, while watching ball games and movies. It was a special time. For Mark, though, it was often the little things that sustained him, that connected him to family, like those phone calls, those texts, those messages, when he just talked to the people he loved. Through it all, Mark was fully present and raring to help. He was a special, amazing Superman, full of passion, laughter, funny comments, and love. Today, as we remember him, let's take to heart his listening ear, his laughter, his helpfulness, his enormous presence, his steadfast love for people and carrying them in any way possible. May we keep these values and qualities alive in each one of us. As we do so, he will always be present. Zikrona livracha. May his memory always be a blessing. Now I would like to invite up his brother, Lenny, to share some precious sacred memories with all of you this month.
How do I begin to say farewell to one of my best friends? My brother Mark was an amazing, caring, and loving man. He was funny beyond words. Whenever we got together or spoke, we would kid each other, and sometimes we were even sarcastic. But it was always taken with the love it was given. So often we reminisced about the things that happened in our past. One of the funniest things I ever did to Mark was when he turned 18. He went out for his birthday on New Year's Eve and came home very late. The next morning when I went out of the building, I found where he parked his car. My friends Martin, Stanley, and I decided to play a prank on him. I took his car keys, and we reparked his car in the opposite direction of the street he was parked on. He found it later that day, and for 20 years, never knew what we did. And when we finally told him about it, we had a wonderful laugh for quite a while. Another occasion was a trip we made to Las Vegas in April of 1985 to have a reunion with all of the Strum brothers for the first time in 18 years. We flew out together on a Thursday and stayed till Sunday. Things were financially poor for both Mark and I at that time, and at the end of the weekend, Mark had to borrow some money from me to pay his part of the hotel room. I was lucky enough the night before to hit the nickel jackpot for $100, so I was able to lend him the money for his part, which was $80. We talked every week during this pandemic year and worried about both our families and especially our older brother Michael. When he was hospitalized last year, I called Mark and I said I was going to drive down to see Michael, and Mark said I should go without him because he was afraid to travel during the pandemic. I was ready to go by myself, and Mark reminded me that due to quarantine rules, I would have to be away from my wife for more than 2 weeks before I could return home. So I decided not to go, which made Mark so happy. Mark was always very devoted to his entire family. He would do anything to help them, whether it was to take them to school, an event, a party, to a friend's house. Mark's whole family is here today. His daughter Erin, his sons Philip and Robert, their mother Sally, and his 2 grandchildren, Liam and Sarah. These are the people his life was all about. When my wife took ill, Mark would call each week to ask about her, no matter what was going on in his life. Although only my wife Marilyn is here with me today, thanks to Philip, our children are at home streaming this service. Thank you for arranging that, Philip. Mark and I grew up in the 50s and 60s. We slept in the same room and had lots of laughs. We also had many fun times with our relatives. Our mom only had one brother, our Uncle Joe, and we would travel, and he had 2 kids, Joyce and Ann, that were close to our ages. We would travel out to Patchogue to visit and spend the day with them and go home after dinner. We lived in Brooklyn. There were many funny stories that came from those visits. It was so much fun to spend time with our extended family. When we were together with other relatives, Mark and I would try to entertain them with funny skits, such as Abbott and Costello, who's on first, Edgar Bergen and Charlie McCarthy, and others. Since Mark was the younger and smaller brother, I got to be the puppeteer. And of course, Mark was the dummy. And our skit started out with me saying to him, "Say hello, dummy." And he would always turn to me, look at me and say, "Hello, dummy." It always got a laugh. We would continue to make funny remarks and the family loved it. I went into the Air Force in 1963, and Mark was left alone with my mom when he was almost 16. By the time I got out of the service in 1967, Mark decided to go into the Navy. And then it was another 4 years we were separated, except on his leaves. I was already married by the time Mark started his military career, and a year later, I was a father with many family obligations. After that, we both had our busy lives. We did not talk as often until we were much older. We have gotten together for several holidays, such as Passover and Rosh Hashanah, many times over the years, and both of my nephews, Philip and Robert, came with their father to these dinners, and we had some wonderful times. My children and grandchildren got to know their Uncle Mark and loved him immensely. I have rambled on about our lives, so let me thank everyone for your participation today in this service. Farewell, Mark. We will love you forever and a day. I promise to be there for your family whenever they need me. Say hi to Mom, Dad, and Jack for me. Thank you.
The poem is from Michael, right? Your family?
Yes.
So I want to share that on behalf of him, a poem that that part of the family sent to share with this sacred occasion so that his presence might be felt here along with everybody as well. Even if he's online. His words are being spoken here together in person. I don't think a pen has gone away. His journey's just begun. Life holds so many facets. This earth is only one. Just think of him as resting from the sorrows and the tears in a place of warmth and comfort where there are no days and years. Think how he must be wishing that we could know today how nothing but our sadness can really pass away. and think of him as living in the hearts of those he touched. For nothing loved is ever lost, and he was loved so much. Mary Elizabeth died. And so we remember him. It's our memories that keep him alive, that keep him present, that keep him with us. In the rising of the sun and its going down, we remember him. And the blowing of the wind and the chill of winter, we remember him. And the opening of the buds and the rebirth of spring, we remember him. And the rustling of leaves and the beauty of autumn, we remember him. And the beginning of the year, as it also was his birthday, and when it ends, as it was also his birthday, we remember him. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember him. When we are lost and sick of heart, we remember him. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember him. So long as we live, he too shall live, for he is now a part of us, as we remember him. I now share the traditional words of our ancestors, the El Malay prayer, which I'll chant in traditional language and use the English translation as well, so that you might know what is being said. It's a prayer that invites God to take Mark into the everlasting soul, that he might be bound up in everlasting life, and that God might be his inheritance. El Malay Rachamim Shafein Bamramim Am Femino Hanekohono Akatambe Ashakindo Im Kadoshim Udohorim Zor Harakia Mazirim Adishmat Mordechai Melech Ben Kavalea Shalach Lulamo Al Harachamim Yasirehu L'Seiter Kedapam Olamim Yitzror Etayim Et Nishmato Adonai Hunahavato Yahuwah V'Shalom Al Yishkaho and Olam. Amen. Compassionate God, eternal spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Mark Strum, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace, as we say together.
Amen.
Adonai Natan, Adonai Lakach. Adonai has given, Adonai has taken away. Blessed be the name of Adonai. Al Nekomo Yavo V'Shalom. May Mark come to his eternal place in peace. May the love and eternal connection of our souls now give us strength as we return to recite the words hallowed by time, sanctifying the name of God. We now honor the memory of Mark Strum with the words of Kaddish Yatom, the mourner's Kaddish. So this is the handout that you all have a copy of, written in traditional language, in transliteration, which is an attempt to put all those sounds into English approximations, and then there's an English translation. So if you'd like to try to read along, you can. Or if you'd like to just kind of look at the English translation and take it in, you can do that. Whatever is your custom, however you feel moved or inspired. If you would like to rise at this moment, I invite you to do so. Yifkadal v'yishkadash shemei rabah, v'alma divra pirutei v'yamalik malkutei, V'chayefon u'yomefon u'kayed kol beit Yisrael Ba'adallah u'bizman karib v'imru amen. Yehi shemei rabba mevarach le'olam hu'amei amayam. Yisbarach v'yistabach v'yitka'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yithadar v'yithalel v'yithalal shemei kudashah barihu. La'ila min kol birchata v'shirata. Tushbehata v'nechemata da'amiran v'yoma v'imru. Amen. Yehi shalom rabba min shemaya. V'chaim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Osei shalom v'imroma. U'yasei shalom. Aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. May the one on high bring peace to all who mourn and all the bereaved among us as we say together. Amen. This concludes the formal part of our funeral service. I just want to take a moment to say thank you to all who are here, all who are online. There's so much love here, not only for Mark, but for each other. May you continue to share stories. May you continue to support each other and be present for each other as we continue to miss this amazing, wonderful Superman. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Too comfortable.